My name is Louise Ogemahgeshig Fischer. I'm Anishinaabe, otherwise known as Chippewa, and in Montana there are a lot of Chippewa people living here. Um, I'm here today to talk about Indian customs, and I'm going to talk and sing, and then we'll go through some of the items that I brought. And I also brought some card sets, and there are 8 cards and 8 envelopes of a man named Ron Hawks. He's a Indian dancer, and also a book that I and this other Indian writer I illustrated and she wrote it, and it's about the when the horse first came to northern Montana, and it's about this little girl who seen the horse for the very first time. So it's kind of an interesting book. Karen, she went through a lot of trouble to research the plants and things that were available back then, and so it's easy reading. It's like middle-aged, middle school, which is like from 5th to 8th, I believe. So anyway, it's kind of a neat book. I like it because it's easy reading and it's really a good story. So anyway, I'm going to get started. This is a rawhide drum. If you haven't ever seen one, it's made out of elk hide, and our family makes drums, and so this is one of the drums that I use all the time with me, and I'm going to sing a song for you. This song is in Ojibwe, and it's a thank you song to the eagle, and the eagle in Ojibwe is Magizi. And so what does all that mean? Well, it just sort of, it's a story about the eagle, and it's how the Indian people honor the eagle, and so this is how it goes. I won't sing the whole thing because of the time, but it repeats itself over and over, but you'll hear the best part. So anyway. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the previous speaker and what she had to say about some of the things in history that we learn and read about, and I really enjoy the food, and so I guess we'll just go ahead and start there with as you look over these mountains, you wonder how did these people survive? And I wonder that myself, because I do a lot of reading and research about our people and about what they did here. And long before Lewis and Clark traveled through this area of what we call Montana, we had our ancestors, the old people who traveled through here, and they had what's called the North Trail, which comes from north and travels south along the east side of the Continental Divide. And in that trail, they'd be interceptions of east and west trails that came into the old North Trail. And our ancestors traded and gathered together and had ceremonies and celebrated with food. And so a gathering together and feasting of food is still happening today. Back on the reservation where I come from, we do ceremonies that have been done for hundreds and hundreds of years. So when you think about living history and about our time in this modern time and age that we live in, we still practice the ceremonies, we still feast, we still honor the drum, our families, our children, mothers, parents, grandparents, all of these people. It's like, even though that was in the past, some of the things that they did back then are still happening nowadays. And I brought some things. You can just come up after I'm done talking. And I brought some trade bead samples and some other things. And I'll go through them. Like, for instance, when we would get together, there'd be a lot of dancing going on. And the dancing was not like it is today. When you look at this dress, it has 365 cones on this dress. This was a dress, it's called a medicine dress. And there's a story that goes with that, and it is about when this Ojibwe man, and this is a more recent dance, less than a couple hundred years ago, this is a true story and what we believe, that this Ojibwe man had a very sick daughter, and his daughter was on her deathbed, and the mother and the father feared for her life, and so he went to sleep, and he had this dream, and in this dream was this dress. It didn't look like this, of course, but in the dream, there were 3 different styles of this dress. And the old dresses back then, instead of tobacco lid type cones on them, they had deer claws that would jingle and make a sound. And we believe that the spirits like this sound, and it's a medicine dress. So he woke up the next day, and he had his wife make 3 different dresses, and they were all a jingle dress. And he had these 3 women do the dance, and in the dance that he dreamed that his daughter was being healed. So when the dress were made, the girls did the dance, they went to the daughter and by her bedside and did this dance, and she was healed. And from that day forward, they call this dress a medicine dress and a healing dress. And it's like one of the fairly new dances that you see at powwows, and now it's become a competitive dance. And when you go at a powwow, you see dresses like this in all different colors that you can imagine. All different, the cones, now they even have golden colored cones. And after they were made out of deer claws, the hoofs, then they started making them with tobacco lids. They take the tobacco, you know how the canister of tobacco has a metal top and bottom like. They'd take that apart and then they'd twist the lid and bend it so they could have the shape. And then from there they were commercially made. Where this dress here, it's not authentic tobacco lids. It is manufactured lids. They all have different designs stamped in them. But this dress, when you go to celebrations and powwows, they'll often have 3 girls who've never seen each other before get out and dance together in a team dance competition. So this is a little bit about this dress. There are other dances that are being done at powwows nowadays. There's the traditional men and women's dress. This dress that I have on right now is a traditional cloth wing dress, and it's called that because of the design. It's like a bird design. It's got like a point on its sleeve to represent like a bird. And since the bird, the eagle, is my clan, I designed these dresses that look like eagle, like a bird, like this one, how the sleeves are designed. So that's a little bit about the dancing. And the dancing nowadays that you see at powwows are all new dances in the last couple 100 years, and especially the last 100 years. Like this dress here, there's also a dance that's fairly new. It's called the grass dance, and it's where you'll see the boys. There's very few women that do this dance, but it has been known to happen. And they have these long pieces of yarn that sway like grass. And so when they, the story goes, is when they were moving their camp, they'd go up ahead, a couple of scouts would go up, and they would stomp the grass out like this. And they started dancing. And they believed this was a gift that they were given, this grass dance. So it's a highly competitive dance nowadays. And so you'll see that at powwows. So a lot of the dances, like I said, were pretty new. The old dances that they did at their gatherings, they were like the horse dance and the rabbit dance, and dances that you do not see at any powwows. They usually have them at special ceremonies and special gatherings that are held away from most of the population. So again, some of those things like the dances and the food and the ceremonies, they're still doing them today. So when you think about the Indian person living in the past, or the living history of the Indian people, it's still happening right now to this day. Indian people still do some of the things that they did before. We live in houses. As far as structures and buildings, you see a lot of teepees that are up around in the area. The Indian people that lived here in this area, they mostly traveled, and when they would have to stay overnight, they'd make these lean-to structures to sleep in. If it was a teepee style, it was of whatever wood. Like if you look down here, you see, if you were traveling, you go, well, night's falling upon me, I better go find some shelter. And where would you go? You'd go right down there where the trees are, and you'd make a shelter out of whatever was available. There wasn't a set wigwam a set teepee. This is how everybody lived. It was what the environment provided at the time. It was not even like wigwams. They took the wigwams and they'd peel the bark and place it together and weave it with roots. Like they'd soak roots and take it, and it would be really pliable, and they'd weave it in and out of the bark, and they'd put layers of it and layers of it so they could be warm and have shelter. And so they used what was available in the environment, so as far as the teepees go, the Indian people up here in this area a couple hundred years ago traveled a long ways to trade with the Indians of the plains so that they could have teepee poles. The teepee poles that you see nowadays are not the teepee poles that we had in the past couple hundred years. The teepee kind of came along and evolved. Like when canvas came, it became a different structure than when 50 or 100 years before then. Usually a woman could put up a teepee in a short period of time, or just made out of like poplar branches. They weren't really lodgepole. Like they would go a long ways to trade for lodgepole, but it would be out of whatever was available in the environment, which like probably wasn't even this tall, and made out of like poplar branches, and then they'd use whatever was available, like branches or bark or whatever. So that's kind of it about structures. And some of the tools that they use to make these things with, like I'll go into that a little bit. This is elk rawhide, and you can see how it was put together in the back. This here string that the elk is made out of, it reaches probably about from here to that fence over there in length, and it still can be stretched after it's put together. I mean, not after it's dry usually, but so it's pretty taut. And with their clothing, I'm going to pass this around, and I always take this with me because it's really a fine specimen of sinew, and sinew is what we use for thread to sew things together, like clothing and whatever we needed. And a piece of this sinew would be soaked and stripped into thread-like material. And as you look at it, you'll see that it's just a flat piece, and it usually is on the back spine of a elk and somewhere on the legs. But again, this is a fine specimen, so, and it's a big elk. So take a look at that, and imagine you wouldn't be able to just go get a needle and thread, what you'd have to go through to just put something together. So the tanning that we do nowadays, the brain tanning and the things that we do nowadays are fairly modern. They're modern things because we didn't have time to do the tanning that we needed. I'm sure you've all read the Lewis and Clark story and about how many moccasins it took for one man. And what they would do is they would go through the process, but it was like hurry up and get it ready. It was not, the time and effort that it takes now to brain tan and tan something. It takes a long time. We didn't have that kind of time because we needed the clothing and we needed the food and all of those things. So I just wanted to add that. this is an arrow that I carry around. Um, it's pretty nice and pretty straight. But the ancestors of the past, especially the hunters and the gatherers in that time, they didn't have a fine specimen like this to use. They had to gather together rocks, and certain kind of rocks, and they had to make things so that they could survive. And I just brought this along because there was a young man here, but there's another one here that I thought maybe it would be interesting for him to see, and other young boys and men, because they had to use the skills that they acquired at a young age to survive, to be able to live and eat. So a young boy his age would probably already have that skill. They would take and make these things, and it took a long time to put together arrows and spears and some of the things that we needed to survive. So they have societies of those kind of people nowadays. They have jingle dress societies, they have arrow making societies, they have weaving societies. And so back then, before Lewis and Clark, there were societies of people that did different things. Only a couple times a year would they gather together in large groups and come together and celebrate and have their ceremonies and do the things that they needed to do to carry on. It would be like having a reunion that we all have nowadays. And so when they'd gather together, they'd be able to eat all these foods and enjoy each other's company and learn things and about the areas that they're going to be hunting in and all these things, and celebrate with naming ceremonies. They have young people, they usually get their Indian names when they're infants, after they're born, and after that they get another name usually around the teenage years, and then often in a lifetime they'll get up to 4 different names, and that goes along with their own identity. That helps identify, that person. It's like today's social security number. So, anyway, the other thing that I brought along, part of the gathering together and celebrating, would be the sage. And I'm going to light some up. You don't have to participate if you don't want to, but this is a special sage, and it does grow in Montana. It's like long leaf sage. It's not like the kind that you buy at the store that has a little thread wrapped around it, or sometimes yarn. It's about this long, and it's got long leaves. It smells kind of strong. That's like what California sage, and that's what they call it anyway. I don't know what the scientific name of it is. So I'm just going to let you pass this around, and this is one of the things that we always use in ceremonies that we've been using for hundreds of years. We do this same thing that we've been doing for a long, long time. So I just wanted to share this with you. And what you can do is you can take the shell and you can just go like this and pass it on. Okay? And it smells really nice. And what it does is it spreads goodness. That's what it does. It spreads goodness, and it makes us feel good. And so we use it in all of our ceremonies and gatherings. So I wanted to be able to have some time to answer some questions. I brought this along because it's weaving. This is weaving. And the hunters and gatherers, which are before, thousands of years ago, they had more time to do some of these types of things. The women, as time went on, they joined the hunters when they'd go out hunting, and that gave them less time to do some of these things. And they really like to weave, like this pine needle basket. It's like the things that they could create as time went by, they were able to trade with the European people and get a cast iron frying pan or some of those things. So I brought this stuff along for you to go ahead and look at. And the other thing I brought is, does anybody know what this is? Sweetgrass. It is. It's almost dry, but we also use this to smudge when we do smudging, and we light it up, and it has the same effect as the sage. So with today, I just want to thank you very, very much for inviting me, Aaron, for inviting me to come here today. I lived in the Bitterroot for a long time, and I never knew such a beautiful place existed here. And it's just right off the highway. And I'm really happy and pleased to be here and share some things with you about Indian customs. The subject is vast. There's a lot to share. And so I'm sure that you have some questions. And so right now I'd like to just see if I can answer those questions. So, does anybody?
Where does that long-leaf sage grow? Here or on the prairie?
I've never heard of it here. It's like in eastern Montana, in the plains, and there's just a few places, and that's one place. And where I get it is back on the reservation.
Where is that?
At White Earth, Minnesota.
Oh.
Yeah. And just so you know that the relationship, well, you wonder, well, what is this Anishinaabe from Minnesota, White Earth, doing here, talking about the Indian people here, or anything about Montana? Well, in answer to that question, the history that you know of is different than the history that we know of, in a way that Anishinaabe people are a huge band of people that live in North America here. There are right now currently 540 different federally recognized tribes in the United States, and I believe it's 263 in Alaska. That's a lot of federally recognized tribes. That only means that the government has recognized this tribe through treaty, usually treaty. They say, I'm going to, it's an agreement between the tribe and the government saying, this is our land, this is what we were designated, we call ourselves this. And Anishinaabe people live here in Montana. They migrated here in Montana just like a lot of the other tribes did. And we currently have 8 reservations in Montana. Part of them are Anishinaabe people, and that's the Little Shell people. And the Rocky Boy Reservation, they're Anishinaabe people. We're all part of this larger group of people, and we're related by bands, a different band. And so the Little Shell is one band, Pembina, which is my band, that's another band. So we are very much related to the Indian people here in that way.